Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're diving into the world of Python and unlocking the power of its built-in functions. In this video, we're not just talking theory, we're diving into the practical side of things. We'll be exploring real-world uses of Python's built-in functions, demonstrating how they can simplify your code, save you time, and make your programs more powerful. Requirements for Run Python. 1. You will need a Mac or PC/laptop with minimum Windows 10 to run Python on your computer.
In this tutorial you'll install Python on Windows 10 using the Python installer for Windows. Prerequisites. You'll need a computer running Windows 10 with administrative privileges and an internet connection. Step 1. Downloading the Python installer. Go to the official Python download page for Windows. Install the latest version of Python for Windows. Step 2. Running the executable installer. After the installer is downloaded, run the Python installer. After the installation is complete, a setup was successful message displays. Verify the Python installation. You can check the version of Python by opening the idle application. Go to Start and enter Python in the search bar and then click the idle app.
Head over to the official website of Visual Studio Code website and install the latest version. Run the setup file to install the Visual Studio Code. Open the Extensions tab. Search for Python and install the official extension by Microsoft. This extension unlocks Python functionalities like syntax highlighting, linting, debugging, and more. The next extension we are going to install is CodeRunner. CodeRunner is a VS Code plugin that allows developers to run snippets written in different programming languages. Other features include running a code file in the currently active editor or through the context menu, running a selected code snippet, After installing the extensions, we will create a new folder where we will save our Python project files. I have already created a folder with the name of test, so I am going to select this folder. Next, we will create a new file to write our first code. Don't forget to write the py extension with the file name. so that the Visual Studio Code treat this file as Python code file. Now we are ready to write our first Python code. We will use print function to print a simple hello world message. And then run the code by clicking on the Run button. Here is, our first Python code has been executed successfully. We've successfully installed VS Code, the Python extension, and configured your interpreter. You're now ready to code, debug, and explore the endless possibilities of Python development. Also, you can learn Python coding by going to Programize online Python compiler to achieve the same task. You can find the link in the description. Print is a built-in Python function helps display text, values stored in variables, or custom messages on the screen. If you just want to show simple text, you can use the print function. Put the text inside double quotes, and it will print exactly what you wrote. This text can include words, numbers, or special characters. Variables are like containers that can hold information. You can put numbers, words, or any kind of information in these containers. If you want to see what's inside a variable, you can use the print command. Just type print followed by the variable name in parentheses. This will show you the actual information inside the variable. But be careful. If you put the variable name inside double quotes within the parentheses, it will print the name of the variable itself, not what's inside. That's because anything inside quotes is treated as plain text and will be printed exactly as it is written. The print function in Python isn't just for showing text or variable values, you can also do calculations inside it. For instance, if you want to add two values, you can write the calculation right in the print function. You can use variable values for calculations. And you can mix strings, words, with calculations in the print function to get dynamic results. But remember, Python is picky about capitalization. If you use a capital P instead of a small p in print, it will show an error because the built-in print function starts with a small p, so be sure to use the right function name to get the results you want. The Python input function is used to receive input from the user while a program is running. When you use input, the program pauses and waits for the user to type something in. Once the user enters the input and presses enter, the program continues execution, and you can store the input in a variable for further processing. Here is an example. In this code, we're using a variable called name to hold the name the user gives us. Then, we're using the print function to show the name the user entered. Every time this code runs, it asks the user to type something in. Whatever the user types gets stored in the name variable. You can use this name anywhere else in your program because it's saved in a variable. We can also get input in the form of numbers, integers or floats, or text. And of course, we can use these values stored in variables with the print function to get the results we want. Let's explore another example involving user input. We'll prompt the user to input two values, and then print their sum. First, we'll capture the initial input value from the user and store it in a variable called value1. Next, we'll prompt for the second input, storing it in a variable named value2. Then, we'll perform the calculation using the print function to display the total. Now I am going to run this code. We'll input the first and second values. Oops, the code displays the input values together instead of their sum. It indicates that the input function is treating the inputs as text values rather than numerical ones. So, we'll need to convert the input format from text to numbers to enable calculations. We'll use the int function to convert the text input into numerical values. There are several methods to achieve this. The first method involves converting the data type of both variables using the int function and storing the sum in a new variable called total. Then, we'll print the value of total. This approach ensures that our code runs smoothly and displays the result in numerical format. The second method entails converting the data types of the variables by enclosing them in the int function within the print statement. This method will produce the similar results to the first approach. The third approach involves converting the data type immediately after user input by wrapping the input code within the int function. This ensures that the input is converted into an integer before being stored in a variable. The end result remains the same as required. We can utilize the float function to convert the values to floating point numbers. Suppose both value1 and value2 variables contain integer values. We'll wrap both variables in the float function to convert their data types to float and store the converted values into two variables called f1 and f2. Then, we'll use the print function to display the sum of both values. Now, we have two results, one in integer value and the other in float value, which includes a decimal point. If you wish to convert the values to strings, you can utilize the str function for this purpose. Simply wrap the variables with the str function to convert them into strings. However, when printed, the values will be concatenated together rather than summed because string values cannot be summed arithmetically. Python arithmetic operators are used to perform math calculations like addition, multiplication, or subtraction. For example, if you want to add two values, then you can use plus sign or minus sign to subtract, asterisk sign to multiply, and slash sign to divide. You can also use variables to do math in Python. This means you can store numbers in variables and then use these variables to do your math calculations. You can also store the results in another variable for later use in any part of your project. In Python, conditional operators help us compare values and figure out if given condition is true or false. For example, let's say we have a variable called marks. We want to see if the value of marks is more than 50. We can use conditional operators to find out. The greater than sign checks if the value of marks is more than 50. If it is, it returns true. If we change the value of marks to 40, it will return false because 40 isn't more than 50. But if we set marks to 50, it still returns false because the condition checks if the value is greater than 50. If we want to include 50 as true, we can use the greater than or equal to sign. Then, if marks is 50 or more, it returns true. We can also use the less than sign to check if the value is less than 50. Using double equal to checks if the value is exactly equal to something. If we want to see if it's not equal to something, we use the not equal to sign. These symbols help us compare values and conditions in Python to make decisions in our programs. The if statement is a fundamental control structure in programming used to make decisions based on certain conditions. It allows the program to execute specific code blocks if a specified condition is true. In simpler terms, the if statement evaluates whether a condition is met, and if it is, it executes a block of code associated with that condition. If the condition is not met, the program can proceed to other statements or execute alternative code blocks. Let's say we have a variable called marks. We will check if the value of marks exceeds to 80, the statement returns, you got a 1 grade. We can associate more than one print statements if the condition is true. And if the value of the marks is greater than or equal to 70, then it will return you got a grade. And if the value of the marks is greater than 50, then it will return you got B grade. In any other case where the marks are less than 50, the statement returns, sorry, you have failed. This structure covers all scenarios based on the value of marks. We can also add the input function to input the value of the variable marks, and the if statement will return the grade after checking all the conditions. In Python, there are many tools called string functions that help change how data looks on the screen without altering the original value stored in a variable. For instance, if you want to make text appear in capital letters, you can use the upper function. Just remember to use the print function to display the result on the screen. Similarly, if you want the text to appear in small letters, you can use the lower function. You can use the find function to look for a particular letter in a sentence. It will tell you where that letter is in the sentence. For example, let's say we want to find the letter N in the sentence. The counting starts with the first letter as 0. So, if the letter N is at number 5, it means it's the fifth letter in the sentence. Similarly, if you're looking for the letter F, and it's at position 7, it counts even the empty spaces. Another helpful function is called replace function. It helps us change any letter or entire word within a sentence. For example, if we want to swap the letter R with a capital 1, we can use the replace function. Similarly, we can also change entire words using the replace function. For example, if we want to replace the word beginners with advance, it will change like this. Here is, the word beginners has been replaced with the word advance. You can use the in function to check if a specific letter or word exists in our sentence. For example, if we want to see if the word for is in our sentence, we can do it like this. It will give us an answer in the form of true or false. If the word exists in the sentence, it will return true, otherwise, it will return false. You can save the result of a string function in a new variable to use it anywhere in your code. For example, if we want to change our sentence to uppercase letters and keep the result in another variable, we can do it like this. The sentence in uppercase will be stored in a variable called topic2, and we can use this variable anywhere in our code. If you want to discover more string functions, you can visit the official Python website. Simply click on the String Methods section, and you'll find many different string functions listed there. If you have to write down numbers from 1 to 10 or 100 by hand, it takes a lot of time. You have to use the print statement on several lines with specific number to achieve the desired results. But Python helps us save time with something called a while loop. A while loop is a way to repeat a task based on a condition. It's like a shortcut that helps us solve many problems easily. A while loop is a programming concept that allows you to execute a block of code repeatedly as long as a specified condition is true. Here's how it works. Condition. You start by defining a condition. This condition is like a rule that decides whether the loop should continue running or stop. Execution. The block of code inside the while loop is executed if the condition is true. If the condition is false, the code inside the loop is skipped, and the program moves on to the next part of the program after the loop. Reevaluation. After the block of code inside the loop is executed, the condition is checked again. If the condition is still true, the block of code inside the loop is executed again. This process continues until the condition becomes false. A list is a versatile collection of items that allows you to store multiple elements of different types in a single variable. Lists are one of the built-in data structures provided by Python. In Python, you can create lists using square brackets, and separating the elements with commas. Let's create a list with the name of numbers, containing integers from 1 to 5. To see all the items in a list, just use the print statement followed by the name of the list. If you want to see the first item of the list, you can use the list name with the index number. Every list starts counting from 0. So, if you want to access the first item of the list, you should use 0 as the index number. And if you want to view the second item of the list, then you should use 1 as index number. And if you want to view the last item of the list, you should use -1 as index number. -1 always show the last item of the list, no matter how long your list is. And if you want to print all the items of the list on a separate list, you can use for loop. For loop through each item in the list called numbers. For each item, it puts that item into a variable called number, and then it prints out that item. It keeps doing this until it has looked at and printed out each item in the list. Let's explain the Python lists with another easy example. We have created a new list with the name of numbers and stored 4 fruit names in it. To view all the fruits in our list, we use the print statement followed by the name of our list. This prints out all the fruits listed one after another. If we want to see a particular fruit from the list, we can specify its position, known as its index number. But remember, in Python, counting starts from 0. So, the first item has an index of 0, the second has an index of 1, and so on. For instance, if we want to see the first fruit, we use 0 as the index number. To see the last fruit in the list, we use -1 as the index number. The -1 index always refers to the last item, -2 refers to the second last, and so on. If we want to see each fruit on a new line, we can use a for loop. This loop goes through each fruit in the list one by one and prints them out, each on its own line. A Python function is a block of reusable code that performs a specific task. Functions allow you to break down your code into smaller, manageable pieces, making it easier to read, understand, and maintain. Functions in Python are defined using the def keyword followed by the function name, parameters, if any, and a colon. The body of the function contains the code to be executed when the function is called. Here's a simple Python function that prints a greeting message whenever it's called. When you call greeting, it will print hello. Welcome to Python. You can call this function anytime you want to greet the user or display a welcome message in your program. Let's create a function named calculation that takes 2 parameters a and b. Inside the function, it calculates the sum of a and b and assigns it to the variable sum. It then returns the value of sum. The return statement ends the execution of the function and sends the value of sum back to the caller. When the function calculation is called with arguments 12 and 15. These values are passed to the parameters a and b respectively. The function computes the sum of a and b, which is 12 plus 15 is equal to 27, and returns this value. Finally, the print statement prints the returned value, 27, to the screen. In summary, the function calculation takes 2 numbers as input, adds them together, and returns the sum. The print statement then displays the result of this calculation. This function with the name of calc takes three parameters, val1, operator, and val2 inside the function. This function with the name of calc takes three parameters, val1, operator, and val2 inside the function. It checks the value of operator using if, elif, and else statements. If the operator is plus, it adds val1 and val2 and assigns the result to a variable called tot. If the operator is dash, it subtracts val2 from val1. If the operator is asterisk, it multiplies val1 and val2. If the operator is slash, it divides val1 by val2. If the operator is not one of the valid arithmetic operators, it assigns the string invalid operator or values. The function then returns the value of tot back. Here, the code prompts the user to input two integer values, val1 and val2, and an arithmetic operator, operator. It then calls the calc function with these inputs and prints the result returned by the function. In Python, a tuple is an immutable ordered collection of elements. This means that once a tuple is created, you cannot change its contents, add, or remove elements from it. Tuples are defined using parentheses and can contain elements of different data types, including other tuples. Here's a basic example of defining tuples. Tuples can also be created without parentheses, but it's a good practice to include them for clarity. You can add items of different data types in a tuple. We can view the items in the tuples using index number same like lists. The one major difference between list and tuples are the lists are editable, but on the other hand, tuples items can't be changed once they have created. For example, we have created a list with the name of list1. We will use append function to append a new item in the list. New item has been added in the list. But if we try to add a new item in the tuples, it returns an error that append can't be applied on tuples. We can also use for loop to access all the items within the tuples.